Imagine for a second being completely and utterly alone in a prison cell. That's exactly where a scholar named Said Nursi found himself. He called it a distressing, disagreeable time. And yet, it was right there, in that isolation, that a really powerful set of ideas about the universe and our place in it was born. So let's dive into this letter from prison and unpack the incredible logic of belief he laid out.
And these are his own words. You can almost feel the weight of that moment, can't you? Nursi believed these ideas were so important, so crucial, that anyone who truly got them could basically save their faith from all the doubts of the modern world. This wasn't just some abstract philosophy for him. No way. This was a lifeline, and it was forged in the absolute toughest of circumstances.
And that really brings us to the core question of this whole explainer. Is it possible? Can one single concept, this idea of divine unity, or Tawhid, the belief in one singular God, can it really be powerful enough to turn despair into joy? To transform a world that seems chaotic and cruel into one that's full of meaning? Well, let's follow Nursi's journey and find out.
So, where does he start? Well, not with some dry, abstract proof. He starts with the personal, the emotional payoff. He calls them the three fruits, the real, tangible benefits you start to feel when you look at the world through the lens of a single, all-merciful creator.
Okay, so the first dilemma that absolutely tormented him was this overwhelming sense of pity. He'd look out at the world and just see weak, helpless creatures suffering under what he called monotonous laws and death elements. You can almost hear his spirit crying out in anguish. Isn't there anyone who will take pity on them?
And this is where you see this incredible shift in perspective. On one hand, without that central idea of unity, suffering just seems random and cruel. It's all just meaningless pain. But if you look at it through the lens of unity, that exact same suffering is transformed. It becomes a very specific act of mercy from a creator who hears every single cry. It reframes a harsh reality into one that's actually guided by a purposeful and beautiful power.
And that's why, for Nursi, the phrase, "there is no God but God," isn't just a simple declaration. As you can see from this quote, it's a deep source of spiritual food. It's the key that unlocks a totally different view of the universe, one filled with mercy and beauty, even when you're staring suffering right in the face.
All right, let's move on to the second dilemma and see how this idea builds. Nursi was really deeply troubled by how temporary everything is, you know? He saw these beautiful, complex beings come into existence for just a moment, only to vanish into what looked like, well, nothing. And this constant cycle of death and disappearance just felt like a huge, profound tragedy. And again, look at how the lens of unity completely changes the picture. Without it, the universe can feel like a slaughterhouse, right? A place of constant goodbyes, where everything beautiful is eventually lost. But with that lens, whoa, that same universe becomes something totally different. A meaningful book filled with divine messages, a magnificent army serving a higher purpose, or even a factory producing things for an eternal world.
And you can tell this wasn't just some intellectual game for him. Wow. You can just feel the genuine relief in his words. The idea of unity literally lit up the darkness for him. It turned his weeping into happiness, because he realized that even in death, things leave their purpose behind. They're just passing behind a curtain to somewhere else.
Now, the third and final personal dilemma, man, this is something I think we can all feel. It's the human condition itself. We have these infinite desires, right, for forever, for happiness, for meaning, but we're stuck with our own powerlessness, our own limitations.
So what does this mean for us, for the value of being human? Well, without a connection to a single creator who can actually answer those infinite desires, we're trapped. We are, as he puts it, the most wretched of animals. But with that connection, our status is completely flipped. We become the most valuable fruit of the entire universe, a friend of the Creator, capable of reaching the highest of highs.
This is such a powerful way to wrap up the personal benefits. Think about it. Even our greatest gift, our intelligence, can turn on us. Without the framework of unity, it becomes this ominous instrument of torture, just endlessly dwelling on past pains and future fears. But with it, that very same intelligence becomes the key to unlocking all the universe's treasures.
Okay, so the personal benefits are huge, but Nursi knew that wasn't enough. He had to ask, is this just a nice story that makes me feel better? Or is it actually, logical? So let's take a look at his arguments.
His first argument is about power, and it's so simple, it's brilliant. Absolute power, just by its very nature, can't be shared. He uses this great analogy. You can't have two mayors in one town, or two kings in one country, without creating total chaos. So it follows that if the universe has an absolute ruler, that ruler has to be one. Period.
Now, get this. His second logical argument is about simplicity and efficiency, and it's a real mind-bender. If you say all of creation comes from one all-powerful being, then making an entire universe is just as easy for that being as making a single flower. It's all part of one system. But, and this is the kicker, if you say creation comes from multiple causes or partners, then making even a single flower becomes as difficult as making a whole universe. Why? Because every single one of those causes would need to have universal knowledge and power just to coordinate with all the others. Unity is it's the simplest, most logical explanation.
Okay, so we've got the emotional fruits and the solid logic. Now Nursi takes his case from the mind to the real world. He's like, all right, where can we actually see the evidence for this? Where are the signs, the stamps of this unity?
First, he looks at the universe and sees a splendid mansion, where even the smallest piece of it, like a single stone, is just as intricate and full of artistry as the entire palace. It all points back to one master architect.
And he sees it as a miraculous book, where every single letter, every word, every page all interconnect. It points to a single, coherent author with one big message woven through the whole thing. And finally, he sees it as an immaculate rosebud, wrapped in countless delicate, decorated petals, all of it showcasing a single source of perfect beauty and incredible order.
And he gets even more specific with this idea of divine stamps or signatures. I love this part. Like, just take any tree, right? Its beginning, the seed, contains the entire blueprint. Its end, the fruit, holds a summary of the whole tree and the seeds for the future. Its outward form is like a perfectly tailored outfit, and its inner workings are like a complex factory. Each one of these four things points to all the others, creating this supreme stamp of a single, all-knowing maker.
So we've seen the personal, the logical, and the observable arguments. The final step is to see how this one core idea of unity doesn't just sit there by itself. For Nursi, it's the foundation for an entire coherent worldview. Everything has to connect.
And this is where it all comes to a head. If you accept this one huge idea, that the universe has a single, all-powerful, all-merciful creator, well then what are the logical consequences? What other beliefs just naturally have to follow?
See, for Nursi, it all clicks together. If there is one creator, it's only logical that he would communicate with his creation through prophets. If he is all just and all merciful, it's logical there would be a resurrection to bring about ultimate justice. The existence of angels, a divine plan, it all flows directly from this one central belief. It's like the master key that unlocks all the other doors of faith.
And that's really what he discovered, all alone in that prison cell. That one idea, when you really think it through, can change not just your mood, but the value and meaning of everything you see, from a tiny fly to the entire cosmos. So I'll leave you with this to think about. How does the lens you look through change the very world you see?